Hello and welcome. My name is Sachin Smotra, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Dataworkz. And I'm very excited here to tell you about some of the work that we've been doing with Couchbase in building a no-code Customer 360. As you know, Customer 360 is one of the most popular use cases for Couchbase, and the NoSQL nature of the schema-free nature of the Couchbase database makes it really, really well suited for building a Customer 360. However, every time you have to bring in data from an external data source, there's manual work that is involved, and that's where Dataworkz comes in. So without further ado, let me just jump right in. A little bit about Dataworkz. Dataworkz was founded in January 2020, and it was founded based off of multiple conversations that we had with a bunch of enterprise customers. And the key underlying theme over there was becoming a data-driven organization is definitely a hard challenge. And it was not something that was easy for most enterprises that were out there. We realized that there was a lot of scope for improvement in the way the problem was being tackled by enterprises. And that's what I set out to address when I started Dataworkz back in Jan. It took us a little bit to raise financing, and by the June timeframe in 2020, the whole team was ready. And it took us about 3 quarters or so to build our product. And then we had our first few pilot customers, and then we were in production starting July 2021. So, how did it all start? I'm sure everybody who's watching this session has heard about the ETL technologies. Again, a great way for bringing data into different destinations, the most popular ones being the data warehouses. But as cloud storage came into the picture, it became very clear that the amount of effort that was being put into storing data was becoming a lot less. In fact, you can today store terabytes of data for a few dollars, I'd say a few $100s. And that's where people started collecting lots and lots of data. And over a period of time, the amount of data that was being collected became really, really huge, and it became very difficult for people or enterprises to essentially go back and manage all of that data. So as we were looking at how the paradigm had shifted from ETL to ELT, we realized that ELT itself was not enough, where extracting and loading data and then transforming it as an afterthought was certainly a way to think about it, but that meant that there was a lot of time, effort, and energy that had to be put into essentially getting from raw data to value. And there were all of these other things that you had to put together from an end-to-end experience perspective, which is where we saw a huge opportunity for Dataworkz. So as soon as you've extracted and loaded data from different systems, you want to be able to transform it, but at the same time, you also want others to be able to discover it. As people start to discover it, there has to be inventory or a catalog of all the data sets that exist within the enterprise. More and more folks start to use data, different use cases emerge. There's more transformation of data that is happening. It becomes very, very difficult to keep track of how data has actually progressed from its initial state to where it is being used for different types of applications, whether it's a BI application, whether it's a machine learning algorithm, or it's even being produced as an API. The quality piece, there's companies that do this for a living, but we felt that that was something that had to be built into the experience from the very beginning. And it's not just about monitoring the quality of the pipelines, it was also about monitoring the quality of the data. And that was something where Dataworkz took a very, very different approach. And last but not the least, the data consumers are sitting in most cases with business organizations in BI teams, and the data producers in many cases are on the data engineering side. And there's a lot of friction in how data consumers and producers work with each other. And that's where we felt that collaboration was lacking. And there was an opportunity to go ahead and reimagine the whole data management experience with a view where all of these were a part of one single platform. And that was the hypothesis for Dataworkz, and that's exactly what we started building. And that's why my initial comment at the beginning of this call about it took us about 3 quarters with a dedicated group of people to build the whole vision for where we wanted to go. And one of the early things for us was to get like-minded folks who were working with large amounts of data, but obviously didn't have the time and the effort to spend large amounts of resources on that. And even if they were willing to look at a new way of looking at things. And that's where the whole notion with the Couchbase Customer 360 comes in. So Perry, with that, let me just hand it over to you to give us a little more about what you were thinking when you were thinking about the Couchbase Customer 360.
Thanks, Sachin, and it's great to be working with you again. So my name's Perry Krug. I am currently the director of shared services here at Couchbase. I've been at Couchbase for quite a long time, and over the years, it's been interesting to see how our organization has grown and changed. And one of the things that we've ended up with is data about our customers stored in a multitude of different systems. Some of it that our customers interact with directly, like our sales and order management and support systems, and some of it more indirectly, where we are writing down and recording how they are using Couchbase and what sort of challenges, what sort of room for areas for improvement they've had. And all of this data is stored in, as I said, a multitude of different systems, extending all the way to people's own individual spreadsheets and in their heads even. And so when I took on this role as director of shared services, our primary mandate is to support the field teams, our sales teams, and do whatever is necessary to improve their productivity and efficiency. And now that spans across a number of different activities, but one of the biggest areas that we identified early on was the fact that it was very hard for any individual member of the team to get a consolidated view of their customer, how much their customers, and equally challenging for us as a business on the inside to get consolidated analytics and match up different data sources to be able to ask a question about our customer and get a consolidated, consistent, and up-to-date view. So we really started with the idea of what are all the different kinds of questions that we want to be able to answer about our customers. Again, this is as an individual field member talking to their customer directly or engaging with their customer directly, and also internally from a business analytics and intelligence perspective, what are the things that we want to be able to know and learn that will make us serve our customers better, give them a better experience, and ultimately drive value for them, which in turn drives value for us. So I'm not going to read through each one of these questions, but you can start to get an idea of it's not just the account record of who is the account rep and the sales engineer and customer success, but it's also how much training have they taken. It's what sort of professional service engagements have they leveraged from us. It's what applications are they using Couchbase to store in? What are some similarities between one customer around the world and another? And ultimately, is this customer going to be growing with us, going to be shrinking with us, or are we in some way at risk of losing them? Now, all of this data has been stored in, let's call it 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 different tools in Couchbase over the years. And the thing that we set out to do was aggregate it all together. So we developed the idea to build a Customer 360 application for Couchbase. Now, some of you out there might also realize that Couchbase is sold to many of our customers for exactly this purpose. And one of the reasons that we undertook the effort to build it ourselves was, again, because our customers are using Couchbase to get some of those same benefits for themselves. They're looking for the flexibility to store data from different types. They're looking for the scale out capability. They're looking for the ability to have different access patterns, whether it be SQL, full text search, analytics, all at a kind of consistent interface and a high performance mechanism. Now, Customer 360 in its generic form can be both user-facing, customer-facing. So if you think of any sort of application that is personalizing an experience for a customer or is aggregating data from different systems for an end user, that's Customer 360. In addition, any sort of internal business analytics, business intelligence about your customers that's combining from multiple systems is also Customer 360. So take that and apply it to Couchbase, and we have this picture here. So across the bottom, we have a number of different data sources. We have our support system using Zendesk and some of our own custom tooling. We have Jira, where we track customer enhancement requests. We have our Salesforce system. We have our new Couchbase Cloud product, and the list goes on and on. If you can imagine all the different systems, all the different interfaces, all the different engagements that any individual customer might have with us as an enterprise software company, this list goes quite long. And across the top, you have all the different kinds of questions that want to be answered. Now, historically, anyone who wanted to answer these questions would have to learn each of these individual systems. They'd have to understand that a particular customer was named named in one form in the support system, but maybe named a little bit differently in Salesforce, and maybe named a little bit differently in the engineering system. So the individual would have to go to each one of those, extract their own data, combine it, and then be able to provide a consolidated view to the customers. It was a huge source of inefficiency. And then internally, being able to provide any sort of cross-customer analytics was nearly impossible to combine all these systems and ask a single question that took from all of the different data sources. And that's why we endeavored to build the Couchbase Customer 360 platform there you see in the middle. We started off manually loading data into Couchbase and building an application on that. Then we started writing our own scripts to pull data automatically. We used a couple different tools with different systems that supported different APIs, and it works, and we did it, but I could immediately see that we were not going to be able to provide the robust kind of data management, data synchronization, data cleanliness, governance, linkage, all of the sort of things that Sachin talked about before. And so what was it, about 3 or 4 months ago, got introduced to Sachin, and we started discussing how the Dataworkz product would be able to help keep this data in sync, keep it in a usable form downstream into Couchbase, and also to give our end users, our internal business users, the ability to combine their own data sets, provide their own analytics, all in a scalable, highly available, robust, and flexible system. So this is what we are working towards today. Right, we have some of it in place, some of it is coming, but basically on the left-hand side, you see a variety of different business applications. All of these we are using at Couchbase and a few more. Down there at the bottom, you see the Couchbase product itself. We have our own custom telemetry, custom data that we're storing in JSON in a number of different Couchbase clusters, and bringing all of that together through there in the middle, through the Dataworkz platform that allows us to have a single pane of glass, so to speak, that combines all of the different data sources on the left, and then allows us to choose which of those data sources, what pieces of the data within each of those data sources do we want to store downstream in potentially a variety of different databases, but in our case, we're using Couchbase as much as possible. Both Couchbase Server, which we deploy in our own data center and in our own cloud infrastructure, and also more recently with the launch of Couchbase Cloud, deploying into our managed and hosted cloud products. Reusing our own systems, we're using our own technology to get the benefits that we are telling our customers they should be getting from us. And I can stand here and say it's working. Then finally, at the end, on the right-hand side, we are able to attach both an operational application. So that Couchbase Customer 360 is a custom-built application that we are using to give our end users, our internal teams, an operational and interactive view to their own data, as well as attaching, in our case, Power BI, but could be any analytics or business intelligence platform on top of the database to provide more reporting and data analytics capabilities. We're doing this live in production now. We have some of the data flowing through Dataworkz. Some of it is being moved over, but we're very happy with both what Couchbase is providing as the database for the application, as well as what Dataworkz is providing as the integration, transformation, and all the other things of lineage and governance that the Dataworkz provides. Sachin, do you want to ask any questions? Do you want me to touch on any other
No,
pieces?
Perry, I think one thing I definitely want you to talk about a little bit more is how you've been able to enable business users, folks who themselves would have wanted to configure, let's say, data coming in from a Salesforce or data coming in from a Marketo on their own, and then do this on their own without having to have any dependency either on yourself or on anybody in the IT team as well.
Thank you. Great point. So previously, before we started using Dataworkz, as I said, we had written our own custom scripts, our own custom integrations that pulled from Salesforce or Jira or Zendesk and put it into Couchbase, and then we built our own application on top of it. And that worked for the data sets that we knew about and wanted to have. But very quickly, we had teams from our business units, be it marketing or finance or the field teams, coming and asking, hey, can you integrate this other data source? Can you pull another object from Salesforce? And thankfully, we were able to say, yes, we can, but then it meant more custom development on our end, testing of that data, and really pushed a lot of the onus onto us to do the manual integration or even scripted integration. Now with Dataworkz, we can set up one time a connection to Salesforce or Marketo or Jira or Zendesk or any of the other systems. We and the IT team can manage the credentials and the security of those credentials and those connections, but then we can open up part of the Dataworkz system to those downstream business users. So open it up to the marketing team, open it up to the finance team, and tell them, hey, here are the objects that you have access to that are sitting in Salesforce, that are sitting in Jira, that are sitting in Marketo. You can point and click, drag and drop, combine those data sets into Couchbase, automatically done behind the scenes without them having to know the database, to know the integration points, and then they can run their own either analytics or run the application on top of that. And so it creates this really nice partnership where I and my team are managing the infrastructure. We're managing the application development that we are using to provide value, but offloads all of the effort that we would have to do to integrate new data sources and bring them together, where now that's pushed upstream or downstream, whichever way you want to think about it, to the individual business users who have a much more business-centric interface and workload that they can decide what data sets they want to combine. And then we are managing the connections, the infrastructure, the high availability, the scaling of all of that, but allowing them to move in parallel on the different data sets that they want to combine. And it's been very, very beneficial, especially as we work across time zones, right? We have teams in London and in California, and I don't have to set up a call with them every time we want to integrate a new data source. They can do what they have access to. In Dataworkz, it's automatically stored in Couchbase, automatically exposed through the same Power BI and application interfaces that we've already built.
Thanks, Perry. And then I think that really touches upon one of the most important points that I was thinking about when I was starting Dataworkz, which was taking the friction out of different actors who are in the data collaboration value chain, if you will. Right from how Perry and his team are basically making sure that the infrastructure is secure, the credentials are set right, everything that is stored in Dataworkz. We went through a fairly extensive security review to make sure that everybody was, including InfoSec, was comfortable with it. And on the other side, making sure that the experience is intuitive enough for a business user or somebody who's not used to writing SQL for a living to be able to come pull new objects from, for example, a Salesforce without having to depend on anybody on the technical side. The one other thing that I definitely want Perry you to talk about is the fact that Dataworkz is the processing engine and it's the metadata engine, but there is no data being stored in Dataworkz, which was a big thing, especially as we spoke to the InfoSec team at Couchbase.
Yeah, I mean, I can echo that, right? So we're using Dataworkz as our integration layer, as our data management layer. And all of these systems, Salesforce, Marketo, Jira, Zendesk, and the others are still actively in use. We are not replacing them. And so they continue to be the system of record for their data. The Customer 360 continues to be the system of record for its data. And we are then pulling in data from those other systems and aggregating it. But to make sure both from a security and a data consistency perspective, it's a very elegant and sound architecture to have Dataworkz be the processing engine. It has to keep track of its own metadata and its own understanding of the systems, but the data is either in our source of record, system of record systems, or as an aggregation layer in Couchbase. That means that it's scalable, it's secure. We continue to retain control over where the data lives and how it's being accessed.
Fantastic. Thank you, Perry. Thanks again for sharing what we've been doing together over the last few months. And with that, it's time for a live demo. And what I'm going to show here in just a second is how we basically build the experience for Salesforce. And the objective here is in the next 5 to 7 minutes, show you a connection to a live Salesforce instance and then move that data into Couchbase Cloud. So without further ado, let me go into the demo. So here I am. This is a demo instance of Dataworkz that I had set up for our demo today. And I'm logging in as myself. So when you log into the homepage, what you see is essentially either a search screen where you can start to search for whatever you're looking for, very similar to what you do with Google, or you can see a quick activity stream. And again, there's not much that's been done over here. So you're seeing a very small activity stream of what was going on in this particular instance. So like I said, our objective here is to move data into Couchbase Cloud and connect to a live Salesforce instance. So let me show you how we do exactly that. Dataworkz connects with a bunch of systems. In this case, what I did was to make sure that it was easy for us to work with Salesforce. I've already connected to a Salesforce instance. So if I just go into the edit mode, I have all of the REST API endpoints, how Dataworkz is essentially pulling data from Salesforce all configured over here. And once my username and password is configured, and all of this requires creating a connected app in Salesforce, and I'm not going to go into details of that because that's going to take its own sweet time. But essentially think of this as an OAuth application that is using the REST API or a combination of the REST bulk and the events API to pull data from Salesforce. So if I was to configure, and this is where the whole notion of a marketing team or a non-technical user being able to come and connect with Dataworkz or connect to Salesforce this would be the experience that they would have. Let's say I wanted to pull the opportunity data from Salesforce. So I just say opti_sfdc. This is the name of the data set that I'd like to call it. It's a standard object. I can start to search for it. I just select the opportunity object. I can come in here and decide which fields I want. And again, this is where the whole user friendliness of the tool and the feedback that we've been getting from some of our customers comes in. There's 94 fields over here. I can actually go through the experience of either selecting all of these right here, or I can download this file. All right, so I'm just going to come back here and say that, look, so here I am. So let me just show you how easy it is to connect with Salesforce and start to pull objects from Salesforce. So Dataworkz connects with a host of cloud data platforms, business systems, including Hadoop. So let me just show you what I've done here for Salesforce. So just before we got on the call here, I actually have, in the interest of time, already configured a connection to a live Salesforce instance that is highlighted over here. Dataworkz is connected to Salesforce using OAuth, and we're using a combination of the REST API, the bulk API, and the events API that Salesforce provides. So here are all the objects that are configured to get data from. You'll notice here that we are using the account object and pulling data from the account object from Salesforce in the frequency of a few minutes. Let me just show you how easy it is to essentially bring in a brand new object. Let's say we wanted to get in opportunity object. So I'll just say opportunity_sfdc. It's a standard object. I come in here, I decide that I want to choose the opportunity object. I can come in here and I can select everything that I want. We've had situations where customers, and I think in the Couchbase scenario as well, they had more than 500 fields or maybe even more in some of these objects. So you have the ability to download the field definition as a CSV file, edit it in Excel, and go on from there. And then you can essentially go ahead and just say, add this, and this is saved. And what this is going to do is essentially go ahead and run a job that's going to go look at your Salesforce data and pull in all of the opportunities that are coming in. And once that is there, so by default, what Dataworkz does is it will use your Cloud Object Store credentials to store the intermediate copy or the raw data, if you will, in the Cloud Object Store. And from there, you can then decide whether you want to move all of the data into Couchbase or you want to move a small subset of the data into Couchbase and so on. So just to showcase how easy or hard it is to connect with Couchbase, so let me just bring in Couchbase over here. I want to connect with Couchbase. I'm just going to say this is connect demo. So I'll just say CB Cloud Connect Demo, and we connect with both Couchbase Database Server as well as Couchbase Cloud. And for the Couchbase Cloud instance, I have the credentials all over here. So this is my server name. I'm going to connect with the Dataworkz instance. I have my need to provide my username, my password, and then when you're connecting with Couchbase Cloud, and this is where if you've been working with the Couchbase Cloud, you know that there's enhanced security over there, and then you essentially need to provide the certificate details as well. So once I've done that, I essentially now I'm connected to my Couchbase server, and then that's it. So this is it. I have essentially connected to a brand new cloud instance of Couchbase. If I just said discover, I would come in here and I'd say, you know what, this is my sales ops use case. I want to connect with the brand new instance of Couchbase that I just connected. There is a bucket that we created just for this demo. I can try and see if I want to discover data by a specific partition column. And I'm just going to say, you know what, let it be SFTC object underscore type. And I say find. I don't find anything where data is partitioned this way, but I'd like to partition data this way in Couchbase. I just say use this as my key for everything that I'm doing in Couchbase, and done. So we just essentially went through the process of configuring connection to Couchbase and also pulling new data coming in from Salesforce. So if I just look at this live connection, I had some account data that I had pulled in from Salesforce. And what you're seeing here is all the data that I had pulled in before. There's detailed statistics available on what data was pulled on what time. So anytime this job was run, you can look at all of the stuff that happened in this job as data was being pulled in. So the first time around, there's around 200 records in the Salesforce instance, and then there's a few records that were updated, and only those incremental records were then essentially pulled from Salesforce, and then that's a job that is running on a recurring basis. Very similar to that, the exact same thing that we did for opportunity. So what you will notice is that I essentially have the exact same experience available for the opportunity data as well. So this is something that I had configured right now. And I had configured this as a one-time pull from Salesforce, but you can essentially make this a recurring job. But what is good, very, very interesting about this is that you are seeing a very, very quick visual profile of the data. So the objective here is that as a business user, I can actually come in and just look at all of this data and start to see interesting trends emerge from, excuse me, what I see in the dashboard over here, which is essentially providing me a great way of showcasing what is happening in my data. So let's say now that I have this, I wanted to move this into Couchbase. So without further ado, I just say I want to save this. We have a brand new Couchbase bucket that we had created for this. We have just say I want to create a new partition, and the Salesforce object type is opportunity. If I can get my spelling right, and there we go. And I just say select this, and that's it. So what I just showed you was essentially moving data from Salesforce, and we just configured a brand new object that essentially pulled data from Salesforce, and going into and then essentially connecting to a brand new instance of Couchbase Cloud, and then being able to move data from the Salesforce instance into Couchbase Cloud. And I showed you this working as a one-time activity. If I wanted to, I could make this a recurring job as well. So just to showcase how easy or hard it is, go back into the brand new configuration for Salesforce that we had created. If you remember, we had configured opportunity as a one-time job only. So if I wanted to, let's say, run this on a certain frequency, I just come in here and I'd say edit. I just say make this a job that's running hourly, every 1 hour at maybe 10 minutes past the hour. So I just say update, save, and that's it. So now what I've done is I've essentially said that anytime every hour at 10 minutes past the hour, there's data that essentially would get pulled from Salesforce, and then whatever downstream processing I need to do, move it into Couchbase, would essentially be automated with Dataworkz. So I just showed you one example of a system where this can be done with Salesforce to Couchbase, but then the exact same thing is being done for Marketo to Couchbase, and we're working on getting now Jira to Couchbase, and then the all the other systems that are possible as well. The other interesting thing over here is that Couchbase is not just a destination. Couchbase can be a source as well, and that's what Perry was alluding to. So in many cases, Couchbase has product usage data, telemetry data that is a part of the that is already stored in a Couchbase database. So just like we're using Couchbase as a destination, you can also look at data that is stored in Couchbase and in a very similar experience, be able to get that data and essentially pull that here. So we had created a brand new one here called SFDC underscore opportunity. And if I just clicked on this, I would see this data coming into Couchbase. So all of this is data, as we were speaking, pulled live from Salesforce and then pushed into Couchbase. The one last thing that I like to show as I'm doing this demo is there's a bunch of things that I can show, and I just scratched the surface here. But the lineage piece on how from Salesforce we got data into S3, which is the default Dataworkz behavior, and from there we essentially moved everything that was there into Couchbase. That completes a really, really quick demo of a live demo of how we connect to a live Salesforce instance and move data into Couchbase. The same experience is possible for all of the other systems that are essentially possible. And you'll notice a notification popped up right on top of my screen. Anytime you're interacting with data, one of the things that I talked about was that the collaboration piece has to be a part of the Dataworkz experience, or it was something that we wanted to build in. So if somebody on the marketing side was doing this, and Perry just wanted to quickly browse through, like, okay, what's been happening in the Dataworkz ecosystem, he can essentially come in and look at the activity stream. Obviously, Perry has access to everything that is going on within the system, and then see very, very quickly how users have been interacting with this data or what pipelines have been built within Dataworkz. So with that, happy to share more details as more and more use cases come in. Perry, would you like to add anything on what I just showed as part of this demo?
No, Sachin, I think that was great. I mean, you showed the experience as an end user. I didn't have to do anything here, right? Once I had gotten the credentials from IT, set up the Couchbase infrastructure, I can hand over all of this. But then, as you said, I can keep tabs on it. I can watch what people are doing. We can track what data is going from what system to another, and then I can continue to build the application and the analytics off of the Couchbase cluster where all this data is coming into. So it's made it really very easy for us to use and manage.
Fantastic. Thank you, Perry. Thank you again for taking the time. We just quickly showed you an overview of what the art of the possible with Dataworkz is. But essentially, if I just was to summarize what we're trying to do here at Dataworkz, we're essentially looking at accelerating the collaboration between the data producers and the data consumers and making it as frictionless as possible. And as we do that, we want to make sure that the end goal of making your analytics faster for anybody who wants to work with data, if they have the right access, they should be able to work with that data without having to wait for anybody to help them pull data from other sources. And then all of this, like I said, by default, we use the object store as our data repository. And that's where all of the data scientists are essentially then going and doing all sorts of interesting experimentation on the data that is coming in. And the holy grail here is not to be able to just pull data and then combine data in different ways. But I think one of the use cases that we're working with on Couchbase is essentially looking at what's happened in Salesforce, looking at what's happened in Marketo, maybe looking at what's happened in Outreach, and then being able to figure out what's the path, the golden path for customer acquisition, because that is information that is extremely valuable to the demand gen team at Couchbase, and then run an experiment on like whatever the output of the machine learning algorithm is, if that golden path is generating better results than what's been done in the past historically. With that, once again, Perry, thank you so much for coming to present this session with me and sharing what you've been doing with Dataworkz. It's an absolute pleasure to work with you. And if there's any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me via email, and I'm happy to engage and tell you more about what we're up to. Thank you.